Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we're going to be talking about battleships and what makes a battleship game effective. Now, I got a game in the Lion and Nelson. We got an anti-AA build on here. We actually have a carrier in this game, but I don't think he attacks me because I watched through the replay again. I don't get any planes shot down. So, disappointed to not get attacked by the the carrier. Nevertheless, how much I'll comment on this individual game, I don't know. But I want to talk about 5 key competencies, characteristics, however you want to phrase it, of battleship play. I don't think I have them in any effective order. It just happened to be how I wrote them down. Number 1, firing on reload. Now, this is an aspirational idea. Okay, I played, I don't know, let's say 15, 16,000 games. Roughly a third of them are battleship games, so I played about 5,000 battleship games, 6,000 battleship games, whatever it is. Have I ever fired on reload? Probably not. I mean, number one, you can see here by the time your shells are loaded, you're usually not in firing position. But even discount that. Let's just say upon spotting the enemy, you fire the exact moment your guns are reloaded every single time throughout the end of the game. Very, very rarely, if ever, will that ever happen to you. That should be the goal, though. All right. Now, if you're finding yourself in games a lot of times where you're like, oh man, I haven't fired my guns for 3, 4, 5 minutes. Well, what does that mean? 5 minutes in World of Warships Legends is a third of the game. And you're basically here to deal spike damage, like we just did to that Weimar there, to the best of your ability, right? And a lot of different things will go into the ability of a ship in a given position to do said spike damage, but that's kind of what we're there to do, right? That's every ship in this game was designed for a specific purpose. Battleships, we're going to cover them all, but firing on the reload, doing that spike damage every 30 seconds or whatever the reload is, that should be the goal. All right, so I want you as a battleship player, especially if you only play battleships, begin to evaluate your game along those lines. How often am I firing? Okay, am I so far back that I'm not firing for 2 minutes at a time, 3 minutes at a time? Well, 3 minutes, what's that? That's a third of the game. That's 20% of the game that you've done nothing. That's a huge percentage. So you need to be focusing on being in position where you're able to fire is basically the idea behind that. Covering lanes, I got down as well, and that's basically putting yourself in a position to attack points of the map that are strategically valuable and that are likely going to be traversed by the enemy. This isn't the best example of the map nor this particular play, but there are a lot of maps where you can park, north or south of, the scoring area, the caps, but in between the caps, right? So if you have A, B, C laid out horizontally, you as the battleship, if you can park in between A and B, well, now anyone who tries to go in between those two caps, which players who are attempting to score will be trying to make those moves, now you can punish them because they're going to be broadside going in between those positions. Battleships, of course, if you can hit a ship broadside, you can potentially kill it in one shot. All right, we're punishing that type of play by the battleship, right? We're limiting the ability of the enemy to safely traverse around the map. Okay, so covering lanes is much different than lobbing shells at the dude who's directly north of you or directly south of you, who's also lobbing shells at you. That does nothing. Neither of those ships are doing anything of strategic value. And really, if your teammates, if they're evaluating your contributions, they should say, okay, this guy cannot be counted on anything, so we're not going to factor him into trying to figure out how to win the game, right? Okay, if the battleship's just sitting in the back, they're worthless. That is basically the idea. So find positions on the map and just pay attention to the games. Where is everyone tend to go? How can I get into positions to attack that? Where are ships likely going to be trying to traverse horizontally? Again, that's very easy on some maps where you have horizontally laid out caps. That's the type of position that we want to be looking for. Covering those with effectiveness, that's devastating. That's a great battleship position. If you're just shooting targets that are angled at you, pointed away or towards you, you're going to be doing the minimum amount of damage generally, and doing the minimum amount of damage where you're playing the class of ship where basically all you're there to do is deal damage. Then you're not really imposing much of your will on the enemy team. So positioning, one of the most difficult aspects of this game, no doubt about it. It takes a lot of experience to kind of figure it out. But if you start to think about it, okay, how can I stop them from moving around rather than just, shooting ships that aren't attempting to move around anyways, that's when you become much more effective. The third point I have written down here is achieving right angles. Now this is, they decided to name the game World of Warships Legends. They could have named it right angle achievement, or let's create right angles. That's what you're trying to do in this game. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships. Your attacks are more effective when you're attacking the side of the ship as opposed to the front or the back. If it's pointing at you, you're going to be doing less damage in general. Okay, there's always rules to or exceptions to every single rule, but in general, that's what we're trying to do. So achieving right angles, there's two components to that. Number one, you want to be doing that to your opponents, and you saw early on when we blasted the Weimar, then we had those two broadside ships that were kind of covered by those islands. We achieved the right angles vis-a-vis those enemy ships, and we got 90,000 damage in the first 5 minutes. So apparently we did a pretty good job of achieving right angles in that play, right? Okay, so we want to be shooting the enemy in the sides. Again, not shooting the battleships that are pointing directly at us, because that is low damage and ineffective. But also, instead of just focusing on creating right angles when it comes to our opponents, shooting them in the sides, yes, great. But we also want to create right angles with our teammates, okay? So imagine, for instance, let's say I have Battleship. Let's see if there's anything on the map right now. Okay, so I think there's a battleship directly to the northeast of me. Looks like our carrier might be flying over him. Sorry, the replay is a little bit small here, but the battleship that the plane is flying over right now, he's about 2.5 squares away from me, and you can see that ship, the Iowa, is pointing directly at him. He's angling against him. He's trying to protect him. I've achieved not quite a right angle against that Iowa, but I have nearly a right angle, and me and him working in tandem like this, the other battleship doesn't know I exist, but I'm trying to play off of his position here, trying to kill the cruiser, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But the Iowa, we could definitely be dealing higher spike damage to the Iowa. And in fact, watching this bag, the Bagration's got a radar. There's reasons I'm shooting that ship. Of course, it's easier for me to kill as a battleship. But, here we're saying, okay, well, Bagration's dropping. Let's take that broadside shot on the Iowa. We'll see if it pans out or not. But utilizing our own teammates, creating those those 90-degree angles. Same thing with destroyers, right? Like if there's a destroyer a couple squares away from me, not stacked on top of me, but his torps come in horizontally towards the opponent will turn towards those torps to dodge them. Now all of a sudden I got a juicy broadside, and now all of a sudden I can potentially kill that ship in one shot. Okay, so spreading out is basically how you create right angles with your teammates. Stacking your entire team on top of each other, the most common play in the game. Of course, there's no right angles created whatsoever, so you're limiting your effectiveness, I guess I should say. Okay, so 3 points down, contributing to base capture. Basically, our role here, it's a rock, paper, scissors game. It was until the carriers came along anyways. Battleships counter cruisers, right? You could see the opening sequence when we blasted the living piss out of the Weimar. That's because that's the ship that I'm designed to kill, right? Okay, so how can I most affect the game in terms of scoring? Well, hopefully my destroyer teammates are on the cap, like the guys on C right now. Hopefully our cruiser teammates there's a great right angle shot there a moment ago. Hopefully our cruiser teammates are supporting them, and we want to support those two guys by killing the main threats. Okay, you got a radar cruiser over there. Boom, let's get them off the board. That's the biggest threat to the destroyers in the game. The destroyers are the people on our team who are scoring the points, who are winning or losing the game, so we need to eliminate the threats to them. Again, battleships, yeah, if you got good broadside shots at them, take them because you want to capitalize on those opportunities. But all things equal, if you don't have a good shot against a battleship, you don't have a good shot against a cruiser, and you don't have a good shot against the destroyer, well, at least you should be shooting the cruiser and the destroyer, because those are far more valuable to the outcome of the game generally than the battleships are. As by design, I think the battleships are, since they're so powerful, potentially they're also kind of limited in what they're designed to be doing. But in effect as well, the way the player base plays battleships, it's just dog shit and they're basically worthless. Okay, so stacking them on top of each other, trying to achieve infinite health, may make you feel good internally, but it offers your team no strategic value, and making that play is going to lose game after game. So just focus on target selection. Essentially, you're here to kill the cruisers. Make sure you're doing it, especially the radar cruisers. And finally, tanking shots. Now, this is another one that comes up when we are playing the game and we look behind us and all the battleships are several squares behind us, whether we're in destroyer, cruiser, battleship, doesn't matter. If our entire team is in low Earth orbit, not in front of the more brittle ships, of course they're not tanking shots. And I feel like this is probably how your average player, and typically you guys watching these videos, my channel, or whoever else, doesn't matter what your skill level is, but I always commend you guys because you're attempting to learn to play the game, right? Some of you are better players than I am. Some of you are completely brand new. Doesn't matter, but you're here because you're interested in actually performing well in the game, generally. But the battleships that I don't identify as really caring that much or whatever, I think their own metric internally of how well they're doing is, am I the last guy alive in a given game? And if I'm the last guy alive in my team every single game, well, my teammates suck. They're not staying alive long enough. I'm clearly a much better player than them. No, it's because the guys that are there with all the HP and all the armor are sitting in the back watching the weaker ships get slaughtered in front of them. Okay, so honestly, if you're a battleship player, either you only play battleships or you mostly play battleships, and your win rate is, heaven forbid, in the 30s, God bless you if it is. Hopefully you're on the path to improve that. 40s, really anything, average is 48%. So I'd say if you're below average in that, you're probably not pursuing any of these objectives that I've laid out. Okay, so really start to think about that as you're playing the game. What am I actually trying to do as a battleship? Fling shots at the Iowa that's flinging shots at me, nobody cares about. Okay. You guys are both parked on the moon. You're not playing the same game as some of us else. So anyway, hopefully that gives you guys some things to think about. Let me know if you got any other tips that I left out here. This was just a brief overview. But if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.